Hi everyone, I hope you all are doing good. Welcome to my channel once again. And this week we are going to talk about payment gateways, a very interesting topic in the cards and payment series. And if you're coming to my channel for the first time, then make sure you hit the subscribe button and also the bell icon so that you get a notification every time I publish a new video for you. Okay, so without wasting any more time, let's get started. What is the difference between a payment gateway and the payment processor? So, the payment gateway is actually the corridor or the interface through which a payment is actually collected from a POS machine or from a website. And then they are being transferred to the processor so that the processor can actually do the processing of the payments, and then the funds are being transferred across to the parties. Payment gateway works for both fiat as well as cryptocurrencies. If you guys don't know what a fiat currency is, it's just the normal currencies that are issued by the government. So, for example, INR, international rupees, or USD, US dollars, or GBP, Great Britain pounds. These are all fiat currencies, and cryptocurrencies is obviously the new age currencies which were on the blockchain technology. Okay, so for example, your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, these are all cryptocurrencies. Now, the important bit to understand here is that because this is your gateway or the transit mechanism, you have to make sure that when the payment details are being transferred, they are in a very secure way, because it's all sensitive information, right? Your card details, your verification details, and so on and so forth. And the whole idea is that we give a corridor or a gateway to these details by encrypting them, first of all, so that it securely passes from one hop to the other, okay, all the way down to the issuer, and then the confirmation is received back when you are standing over there at a POS terminal or you're making a transaction online. And also to mention here that it's the payment processor or the acquirer processor that's actually responsible for deciding that this particular transaction needs to be routed to a particular card scheme. So if it's a Visa transaction, the acquirer will route it to Visa. If it's a MasterCard transaction, the acquirer is going to route it to MasterCard. The gateway does not do that. The gateway's job is to take all of these details from the merchant's website or from the POS machine, secure them, encrypt them. This is the card holder, this is the amount, these are the verification details, and these details need to be carried in a secure way through a corridor, all the way through the issuing bank, where the processor and the network, and then the issuing bank will send a confirmation back to the gateway saying that yes, this is a legitimate transaction, the customer details have been authenticated, and the purchase can be made. And these details are then given back to the customer in the form of an acknowledgement. So it's the difference that you need to take care of. Payment gateway and payment processor are two separate entities, and that's the important thing that we want to stress upon here. Payment gateways can also be classified depending upon the kind of currency that is being used to do the purchase. So remember, we talked about the fiat currency and the cryptocurrency. So on the left hand side, you can actually see some differences between the two. So like I said, the government issued currency is the fiat currency, and cryptocurrency is the blockchain based currencies, the new age currencies. Obviously, currencies are centrally regulated by the government, but cryptocurrency is a decentralized platform, right? So it just works on the principle of blockchain. Fiat currency is less volatile, and cryptocurrency is quite volatile in nature, as we have seen, the kind of fluctuations that we see in the prices of Bitcoin, for example, these days. And there is an intermediary validation for of transaction that happens in fiat currency. So for example, there are different bodies that are responsible there, right? Once the processing happens, it has to go to the issuer, and then the issuer bank will verify whether the required amount of funds are available in the account or not, and then you get a confirmation back. But cryptocurrency simply works on the blockchain validation. Okay, but the transaction costs are more for the fiat currency as compared to cryptocurrencies. So typically the transaction costs on a transaction would range from 2 to 3% for fiat gateways, but for the crypto gateways it's about 0.5 to 1%. Um, there is multi-currency support that is required for fiat gateways, so especially when you're dealing with international transactions. But cryptocurrency is more or less borderless, right? So it just works on the validation mechanism on blockchain. It really doesn't matter where the customer is located. So the fiat currencies are widely accepted and cryptocurrencies are still gaining acceptance. Now here on this slide you would know about an important terminology called as merchant account. Now this account is actually, as the name says, an account meant for the merchant, and this is the account where the payments are collected for the merchant. Okay, now this account is different from the normal bank account. So there could be a merchant who has a normal bank account, but this merchant account is different from your normal bank account. Now, this merchant account is actually specifically created and tailored so that it can receive the credit, debit, or any other electronic form of payments, and it can also hold the funds. And these funds are then eventually transferred to the normal bank account for the merchant. Okay, now you have a dedicated account for the merchant, which are particularly big players. So, every big player, every big merchant would have their own dedicated merchant account. There could be a question that why do we need a merchant account when there is already a bank account that the merchant has? Now, the thing to note here is that this is a specifically designed account for handling processed payments. And therefore, the whole idea is that how soon can we process the payments and deposit back to the merchant side? Because remember, when we are dealing with a transaction, the issuing bank could be different, the acquiring bank could be different, there could be different players in across the chain, right? So the whole idea is that how soon we can do this verification and make sure that the merchant gets the money back. Okay, now when I say how soon, and when I emphasize on the verification delays avoidance, what I basically mean is that there is a very strong relationship with the card scheme and the network that's also involved here that helps in the processing of these payments. Okay, so the card scheme, the network would also have this kind of a relationship where they understand that yes, this is a merchant account that has been validated and verified, and therefore it's safe for them to transfer the amounts as quickly as possible without waiting for any further verification. And typically the funds are transferred within 1 to 2 days into your bank account. So that's basically what a merchant account is. Now, one of the important things that you need to remember here is that the most important cost for a merchant is actually the merchant discount rate. Obviously, there are other costs that are also involved, for example, the gateway transaction fee and all of those things. But it's the merchant account fee that sort of is quite critical when it comes to deciding which merchant account services should I go with. The transaction volume is also important to decide, how the criticality weighs between the merchant discount rate and the gateway fee. So, for example, if you have less number of transactions, if you are, for example, a small merchant or a new business, and you have less number of transactions, then gateway fee, which is actually a flat fee that's being charged for you for every query that you send across all the way to the issuing bank, and then you get the confirmation back. Now that is a flat fee, and therefore with lower volume of transactions, you would still looking at a fairly reasonable amount. But when your business grows and when your number of transactions shoots up, that's where you got to pay more attention to the gateway fee, and then you got to look into what's the best possible model for my business where I optimize this gateway fee. So it all depends on really the size of the merchants and different statistics when it comes to maintaining a balance between the charges on the merchant account and the gateway fee. Another important term to mention here is a payment facilitator, or commonly called as PayFac. Now, we will make a separate video altogether to look into the details of how a PayFac functions, but I just wanted to call it out here because we were talking about the merchant account as well in the previous slide. Now, this is similar to a merchant account, but actually it's not the same. Okay. Now, the difference here is that a PayFac is more like a payment facilitator where there is one particular merchant ID for a payment facilitating firm, and that same merchant ID is being shared by multiple different merchants. Okay, so this is more like a shared services kind of a model where you have one particular merchant ID that is being used by all the different other merchants under the same umbrella. Now, because all of the different merchants are using the same merchant ID, obviously there is a lot of risks involved here. There's a lot of due diligence that is required, because what if there is something not going right with one of the merchants? That shouldn't affect the other merchants as well. Now, why do we need a payment facilitator? Because some of the new businesses, some of the new set up businesses or entrepreneurs, they may not be requiring a full-fledged merchant account, because obviously when you go for applying for a merchant account, there is a lot of paperwork that's required. There's a lot of processes that need to be adhered to. But what if I'm a new business and I need something that can be set up very fast? Okay, so this is where PayFac comes in very handy. There is a higher transaction fee than the traditional merchant accounts. Now, in this particular slide, I have tried to just depict a very common, a very basic crypto gateway mechanism. Now, you can see there is a customer who actually has done some shopping and he wants to pay through Bitcoin. Let's say if he has a balance of 0.002 BTC in his account, and he wants to buy something which is worth 0.001 BTC. Now you can see that this information, along with his details in an encrypted way, they go through the payment gateway or the crypto gateway, and then the merchant will submit these details to the payment processor. Okay. Now, we really the question that would come here is that why do we still need a intermediary body like a processor here? This is cryptocurrency, this is blockchain, so the validation can be done directly on the blockchain. Yes, that's correct. The verification can be done, which you can see that is happening, but then you need someone to handle all of these things, right? They otherwise, how is that connection going to work between the merchant and the cryptocurrency blockchain? What if the merchant runs into some issues and he would need some support from someone, in case if there is a technical failure or if there is anything else that's going on, then he would need some sort of support, and therefore the payment processor comes into picture. Okay, so there are a lot of companies, there are a lot of organizations, for example Coinbase, where you can actually who actually provide services of a crypto payment processing. So what they do is then they will send a response back to the merchant that yes, there is the validation has been done on the blockchain, and therefore the payment has been confirmed as successful, and the payment confirmation is received by the customer, and his balance is updated. So this is a very simple way of just understanding at a very, very high level of how a crypto gateway works. Now, what are the advantages of the crypto payment gateways? So obviously, like we mentioned before, that the transaction costs are less as compared to fiat. But then obviously this is more secure because it uses the blockchain technology, right? So this is highly secure way of doing the processing. Again, we're not going into the details of the blockchain technology here, but just remember that this is a more secure way of processing. There is anonymity maintained. If I do a payment, I don't need to tell anyone who am I. So there is a high degree of anonymity that is also maintained. Uh, we mentioned this previously. This is a borderless, secure way of accepting the payments. You can accept the cryptocurrency that you like. So you as a merchant have an option to decide which cryptocurrency is you are comfortable with. You can accept a BTC, you can accept Ethereum or anything else. There are some options where you can actually switch from cryptocurrency to fiat as well if required. So there's a lot of flexibility which comes with crypto payment gateways. Now, this is a new age gateway. This is gaining popularity with time. There are not many merchants who accept crypto payments still, but the adoption is increasing day by day. Now that we have looked into a little bit more on the details of the payment processors, the payment gateways, merchant accounts. So there are some questions that I have put up on this slide. And the reason of putting up these questions is that obviously we cannot cover everything in this small video. But if you try to get the answers for these questions, this is one of a very good ways of understanding these concepts in a little bit more detail. So let's say if you were a customer and you had both cryptocurrencies and the fiat currencies to spend for an online shopping, which one would you prefer and why? So look for those reasons of why you would go for shopping with cryptocurrency versus a fiat currency, or alternatively. The second is, if you're a merchant, then what points would you consider before deciding the right gateway for your business? Okay, whether would you like to onboard a crypto gateway? Would you like to just continue with a fiat gateway? So would you like to go with uh, you know a solution where you just have your website collecting the payment details, but then you are transferring the payment details to a third party processor, or you would want to handle this yourself? How would you decide? How would you make that decision? What if you are an online aggregator business? Like, for example, you're a food delivery um, website, or you're a rental website. For example, you're an Airbnb, or for example, you are an Uber Eats. So, does it make sense to just make sure that all of these different merchants, right, which are being hosted on your platform, they get the payment processing services directly by you, as in you act as a payment facilitator, and then you just help them with the payment processing, rather than taking the end customers who buy something from these merchants on your platform to their third party, to a third party payment processing platform. So, what is it that is the thing that you would be looking for? Would you prefer a gateway and acquiring services from the same company or different? And why would you prefer it from the same company, or why would you prefer it from a different company? Or what could be the advantages if you prefer it from the same company? Maybe the same company gives you better pricing. Maybe the same company gives you better user experience. So it all depends on what you look for. Is the customer support critical for you? Do you think that if you run into any issues, if you're a merchant, and if you run into any issues, then would you require some customer support that can help you to mitigate those issues? Is that an important thing for you? So those are the kind of things that you should be asking. There are some references that I have put here. These would also be there in the description of the video. So therefore, please feel free and visit these websites so you get a better understanding of how this whole thing works. So guys, with this, we come to an end of this video as well. And thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you all once again next time with another interesting video. Until then, please take care. Goodbye.